Hi, let's talk about passive income with real estate. This is a term I hear all the time online, different TikTok videos and Instagram about passive income with real estate. The idea is that you purchase an asset and then you sit back and collect payments. Well, this could be true, but there's really only 2 or 3 scenarios that I'm aware of that it's actually true. The first scenario is purchasing a cash flow property, whether it's a house that you're gonna short-term rent or a multifamily property that you're gonna long-term lease out, or a commercial building that you're gonna get a long-term tenant in place. These all require work. So the only way to get passive income on an asset like that is to hire a really great property manager. And in many cases, like what we do for a lot of our clients, it works out. We handle everything from maintenance requests when a tenant calls up and there's an issue with the toilet that needs to be unclogged. We'll send out a plumber. We'll handle the billing for that vendor. We'll make sure the rents are collected on time. We'll issue any notices that are necessary. We'll get the leases secured. We'll advertise the property for rent. We'll handle all of the tax reporting at the end of the year. If you didn't know, if you pay a vendor over $600 for the year, you have to issue them a 1099 by the end of January the following year. All that is required, and that's not passive. What is passive is when a good property manager handles it, and then I just wire the money through direct deposit, or I send out a check to the client that actually owns the property. We take a management fee, but that's pretty much as passive as you're gonna get on most real estate. There is a second method, and it's a commercial type of property called a triple net lease. Most people have never heard of this because they don't deal with commercial. They're very familiar with maybe buying 2 or 3 unit, a triplex or a fourplex, renting those out. But a triple net lease is when commercial properties actually lease out the underlying land. So what does that mean? It means that the tenant itself is going to pay for the property taxes, the development of the property, the maintenance of the property, everything that goes into operating their business on that property, they're going to pay for, while the landlord who owns the underlying land is going to collect that check. He's only basically leasing out the land. That's why many times it's called a land lease, but this also referred to as a triple net lease. Unlike a gross lease, which is most leases, and especially residential, which means that the tenant or the landlord is going to pay for the property taxes. They're going to pay for the maintenance on the property. If the AC blows out, they're going to have to replace that. If the plumbing pipes burst, they're going to have to replace that. A triple net lease, if any of those things happen, it's on the tenant. Now, the most common forms of triple net leases, you've seen them, are generally franchise locations such as Starbucks, very well known for getting a triple net lease for a very long-term period on a plot of land. Then they actually build their facility on top. So McDonald's, very common. They have triple net leases on their locations. They'll build the McDonald's on top, then they'll lease out to the operator who's going to operate on top of that. So that's one of the most passive income ways to get real estate. Is called a triple net lease. Now, either way you go, triple net leases can be great, but you can get some higher returns on other type of investments, such as mobile home parks. Short-term rentals are really great right now. Question is, how long is Airbnb going to last? Probably for a while, but more importantly, what are the laws in that local area that are going to be passed? LA, Los Angeles, has basically shut down Airbnb. They passed a law that says unless you're a primary owner, meaning you live in that house, and it has to be a single family home. You cannot Airbnb a multifamily property now. You can't Airbnb a commercial property. You can only Airbnb in Los Angeles City a single family home, and it has to be a primary residence. And even then, you have to get a permit to do it, and they only let you do 120 nights a year unless you're doing a longer term lease, which is generally over 29 or 30 days. Now, Those higher income producing investments can be passive if you get a great property manager. So how do you find a great property manager? Well, one, vet the property manager, ask for referrals, look on Yelp to see the reviews, look for property manager signs that are already around your area. Start calling them, talking to them. Ask one, what are their rates? Normal property management rates are somewhere between 5 to 10% of the gross rent. So if your investment's bringing in $10,000, that means you're going to be paying that property manager somewhere between $500 to $1,000 for them to handle that. Now, short-term rentals and other investment vehicles that require more management effort usually charge higher. I know in Joshua Tree, for example, we're looking at some management companies out there, or we may manage it ourselves, and they're charging 30% of the gross rent. Pretty high. In Los Angeles, many property management companies are charging 25% of the gross revenue on a short-term rental property. But they'll handle everything: the check-ins, maintenance requests, collecting the revenues, all the tax reporting, basically everything from A to Z in order to get the investor a check. Now, if you're just starting out and you want to get an investment property, it may be a good idea for you to self-manage it if it's only 1, 2, 3, or 4 units. Or if you're busy, you can get a triple net property like we were discussing, which is as least maintenance intensive as you can possibly get. But if you're a busy individual, such as one of our clients is a heart surgeon, well, he doesn't have time to deal with tenant calls talking about how the refrigerator stopped working. So he needs to build in the property management fee on his financial projections whenever he's looking at an investment. And this can work out in your favor because it's going to make it as passive of an income as possible. Follow us for more tips, and we'll do another video on how to actually do a financial analysis on these investment properties to see if it's a good deal or not.